Hey guys, Bella here. In this video, we're going to be going over 50 relationship green flags. So these are things that are good about potential partners that we could see early on and potentially into the relationship. I've actually been pretty active on the female dating strategy subreddit, which is very controversial. If you are on Reddit, you know that this is like a love-hate relationship. They are basically calling this a male hate subreddit in some communities, but I really don't think it's like that. It's really more or less a place for women to get standards, especially for women who have been treated poorly in the past. It is just kind of a tough love thing. And I just kind of see it as a way that I would probably speak to one of my younger cousins or one of my friends about relationships if she were letting people treat her poorly. So let's go and look at some of these red flags. Now, this was a post that was on female dating strategy. And I think that this is really useful because a lot of times we see red flags, but we don't necessarily see green flags. And I truly believe that if you are paying attention to something just from watching a video like this, you will become more aware of it and you will see it more as you begin to look for it. So here are some of the green flags. So, self responsibility, meaning he takes control for his life and his actions. He is not blaming everyone and everything else when things go poorly. Support your personal growth. Practices self-care, so he takes care of himself. He is not just letting his apartment go down to complete turmoil, and he takes care of his hair and his nails and things like that. Self-reflective, so the ability to look within himself and to reflect on things that are going on in his life. Long-standing friendships, now this is something that I totally agree with. Some people may disagree, but I think if people don't have at least one or two very good friends, it may be a sign that they have been flaky in the past or they have had poor behavior in the past. I know personally that I've had some of my very good friends for over a decade, and I believe that if you have long-standing friendships, it means that you are the kind of person who can keep up a relationship, and that is just my personal opinion. Empathy, so the ability to feel what someone else is feeling. Vulnerability, so the ability to share himself with you. Spirituality, now this is different for different people. This is not high on my list, but I do feel like I would prefer a partner who is good at like manifesting, and just looking at things like manifesting meditation with an open mind. And if you're spiritual, you don't want to date someone who is not spiritual because it's going to become a problem later on in your relationship. Self-sufficiency, so this shouldn't really even be a green flag, honestly, because it's just like a basic human standard, but I guess it has to be on here. um, Healthy hobbies, so you want to date someone who has their own things going on for them. In the past, I've dated people whose only hobby was like drinking or something like that, and it became a really toxic relationship. So I think having a healthy hobby like running, or maybe they want to go hiking or climbing, or even shooting like guns, or just that's such an Alabama thing. But I mean, just having an interest outside of their career is really important. I think it shows a well rounded person, because if somebody only goes to work and then goes home, you can pretty much guarantee that that is what the rest of your life with them would look like if you moved in together. Communicates openly. So this is important to me because in the past I've had relationships where people would say nothing was wrong, and I think that men and women are both very, very guilty of this. And I try to express my feelings because even though it is really difficult in the moment, it is the best in the long run to just tell people how you actually feel. Honors boundaries. Now, boundaries could be a whole entire video topic, but boundaries for me means that when I tell you something makes me uncomfortable, you stop doing it. Or when I tell you, hey, I'm not really big on this, could you not do this anymore? They don't question it, they don't try to push it. They honor your boundary that you have set up around yourself. So I think that that is really, really important. Okay, on to the next list. I pulled this list off of Google, but I thought it was a really great list because it kind of sums up some things that we should probably all be looking at. If you are in a relationship and you see some of these qualities, you know that this is a good sign. So, affection. I know a lot of couples who their boyfriend like won't touch them in public, and that's kind of weird. Like that's like a red flag, honestly. So if they do show affection, and even when you're home alone together, you should show affection to one another. I actually know people who like no longer like hold hands with their spouse or kiss their spouse. So I think that is can be a green flag or a red flag. Takes an interest in your interests. So this one is cool, but I think that you can still have interests without your partner being interested in them. But the main thing is that they ask questions about it and they make an effort to figure out whether or not that might be something that may interest them. So, friendship, this one's kind of open ended, positive and supportive about you, even when you are not. So, there are days where we all get down on ourselves. And so, you need that kind of partner who's going to pull you up. But on the other side of the coin, you definitely don't want a partner who is always wallowing in self pity and sorrow because that is just going to be emotionally draining for you. Sense of humor, laughs at their self. This is big for me. Like if I tell a joke about myself and you laugh, but then, I tell a joke later on and it's sort of like playfully at your expense and you don't laugh. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of not big on that. Like, I like someone who's going to go back and forth with me and we can laugh at ourselves and we don't take ourselves too seriously. Willingness to share financially. I think that this probably comes later in the relationship for most relationships, but at the same time, someone who is overly frugal or stingy is not really high on my list. Like if you're constantly worrying about money, I'm definitely not going to want to date you because it's just something that I'm not interested in dealing with and worrying about. Like for instance, if you go on a date and they are flagging the waitress down in the first 5 minutes of the meal, telling them that you're going to be on separate checks, then that's just not going to work for me. So, willingness to share financially is kind of open ended. And I think that this is really bringing up a great point that you need to know what you want before you start dating because if you don't know what you want, you can't weed out what you don't want. Okay, so share on all levels. Again, I think that this maybe is a little bit for people who are deeper into a relationship. In the beginning, when you first start dating someone, you don't need to share everything with them about yourself because that just opens you up for sabotage. Okay, being vulnerable, we already had that one. Being a listener, this is huge. If you can't listen, then you really are not well rounded enough to be dating someone. There's a lot of people who pretend to listen, but they don't respond accordingly, so you know that they're not really listening. Just pay attention, just kind of give someone a little test and say something that is kind of deep, and then see how they respond. See if they look distracted. See if they change the subject to turn the topic back onto something that they're interested in. Having a fun or childish side, like I said, being able to laugh at ourselves, not taking ourselves too serious is very important. Enjoying similar things, this will really be important in the long run because if you don't enjoy anything if you don't have anything in common, you really don't have long-term relationship potential in my opinion because what if they are really fit and you never want to stop watching Netflix? Or what if they love to travel but you're more of a homebody? This is something that you really need to talk about early on in your relationships if you're going to have a long-term potential with somebody. On the flip side, having individual interests, as I said before, if they don't have their own hobbies in their own life outside of their work, it's really kind of a red flag. So if they have their own interests, it's a green flag. Supportive of personal growth, not feeling threatened by it. This is huge because a lot of men that I have dated, when I have made good money or had a promotion, they acted like they were actually put off by it. I felt like I could not share my success because I made them feel badly about themselves. So supportive of personal growth is huge for me, even just down to the saying like, hey, I'm going to go to this conference next month and it's really important to me and I think I'm going to get a lot out of it. If they just kind of shrug that off, that's really bad. That's a really not a good sign. But if they're on the other side of this, like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you, like I feel like this is really going to help you in your field, or this is really going to help you get the results you want, or whatever, that is a great sign. Accepting your past without judgment. Now, this depends on how much of your past that you share with your potential partner. But I think that, if you divulge details about your past or things you did and they are judgmental, especially like about past relationships, I think that that's kind of a sign of immaturity. Not comparing you to others. Now, the fact that this is even on this list shows that how horrible some people are. But I've actually had men that I'm on a date with, like, literally look at a waitress and like make a comment about her, and I'm just like, in retrospect, I'm like, I should have probably ran away from this date. Like I should have said I was going to the bathroom and then just ran out of there. But when they compare yourself, even not just necessarily physically, but when they compare what you do to someone else, like say they're like, well, so and so that I work with's wife or girlfriend doesn't do this, that is a huge red flag because that literally has nothing to do with you and your relationship. Respect for privacy. So I hate to say it, but if they're trying to check your phone, there's probably something going on with their mental health, or they have cheated, because anyone who's ever been really, really jealous of me when I'm dating them literally is a cheater. Like if you have to worry that much about the person that you're with, you guys are probably not meant to be together, honestly. Respect for your job. So they have respect for your career, no matter what your career is. If your career is not as, lucrative as theirs, or if your career is more lucrative than theirs, they need to have the same respect for you, and they need to have the same respect for the amount of hours that you put in to earn a living, because we all pretty much have to work for a living. So if they don't have respect for what you do, it's really, not a good sign. But if they do have respect for what you do, it's kind of encouraging, because you know that you're on the same page. Respect for your children. I don't know. I don't have kids, but obviously, I'm sure dating with kids is a whole other ballgame. They know that they're not the center of your universe. So I have dated a lot of people who thought they were, and guess what? Newsflash, buddy, they're not here anymore. So I think that that is just so weird that people become obsessed with each other, especially so early on in the relationships. You have that Facebook friend. Everybody has that friend who is like, I'm in love, and like 6 months later, they're like, this is the worst person I've ever met. And then again, it's like the cycle continues. So people who are obsessed with someone and make them their world early on in the relationship, that is really creepy. Maturity, this is pretty open-ended and vague, honestly, but you want to date someone who is mature. Sense of perspective, not overreacting. That is a big one. Confidence in themselves. So you want someone who is confident, because if they're not confident in themselves, why would you want to be with them? If they don't even like themselves, why should you like them? Fits in, makes an effort to get to know friends and family. This one is personally very important to me, because I have brought people home to my family before, and they've kind of like not said anything like the whole time they were there. And my family was like, you know how Southern people are like, he didn't even speak, he didn't even say anything. So if a guy is going to be like someone in your life that you care enough about to bring home to your family, he really needs to make an effort whenever you introduce him, because to me, that is a pretty serious step. Respects individuality. So he sees you as a separate person as himself, and you guys have your own lives. Admits mistakes. This is something that everyone, probably has trouble with, and it's difficult for me to admit when I'm in the wrong, because I feel like a lot of times I have seen things objectively, but at the same time, when we hurt someone's feelings, we don't always get to decide whether or not we hurt their feelings. They get to decide. So admitting your mistakes is pretty important. Takes responsibility for own needs. Again, that's just a self-sufficient adult. Shares household chores. Now, this is something that is high on my list. If I ever marry someone, they have to pull their weight. This is something that I take really a lot of pride in my home and the way that I keep my home. So if they are not willing to share chores, that's just off the table for me. Especially like, I don't know, like if I'm at home and I cook a guy dinner as a date, and he doesn't like offer to help me like wash the dishes, I'm making mental notes. Enjoy solitude. So they like to have their own time to themselves. Let's flip over to the next one. These are the last few. I've got 50 altogether, but these are the last few. So they respect your personal space and honor their time. They honor your time alone, your introvert time. This is huge for me, because I feel like I am a kind of person who I may even need a couple of days to recharge. Not saying that I'm going to ghost or I'm not going to talk to you, but at the same time, like if we've been hanging out all the time, I might just be like, hey, I'm going to need like a couple of days to myself. And a kind of person who makes you feel guilty about that, or makes you worry about having your own space, is really a red flag. So if they honor your space, that is a green flag. You don't feel pressured to have sex. Obviously, this is something that most women will have to deal with, and most men are the one who are doing the pressuring. So just kind of pay attention to how he reacts towards that. They make an effort to know your family and friends. As I said before, it's really a green flag when a guy comes in and starts asking your family questions about themselves and tries to get to know them and tries to fit in. They make an effort to see you even when they are busy. So this is something that I think really shows that they are committed to you and your relationship, because if they are not, if they are coming up with all kinds of reasons why they couldn't text back for 2 days or something like that, then they're really not interested in you. If you have to fight for someone's attention and time and effort, then they're just not into you. They are dependable, doing what he will do and being where he says he'll be. So this is so important, because a lot of people, in especially, don't want to rag on millennials, but especially younger people, don't honor their commitments as much as I think they should. Personally, if I tell someone that I'm going to be somewhere, I am there. If I'm not there, something has gone very wrong, or I will let you know why I'm not there, and I'll let you know well ahead of time that I'm not going to be there. So just being dependable to me is extremely important. Okay, so you're the real, authentic you around them. You don't put on anything. You don't try to impress them. You don't dress up to the nines every time you see them. You just are you and you let them see you. And that is so important because if you can't be yourself around them, then you really don't need to, even try to be in a relationship or dating them. You are proud to call them your partner. This is something that I have struggled with because I've dated people who I felt like personally were beneath me. And I know that sounds really harsh, but I've dated people who did not have it together, did not have financial security, did not have anything going for them. And I wasn't proud to be with them. And I think at the end of the day, if you can't show someone off to your friends and family, like you just really don't need to be with them. This one is really sweet. When someone compliments others behind their backs. Now, the sweetest people that I know all do this. They have really nice things to say about people, and they don't even want the person to know that they said it. They just want to say it out of kindness. And I think that that is a green flag. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Would really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Definitely leave topics for more videos. I want to explore more relationship videos because it is something that I read a ton about, and I think that the more we know, the better we can pick our partners. If you want to find me on Instagram, I'm at BellaStayFly. You can DM me if you have a topic that you want me to cover, especially if you have something that is relationship related. Now, I would love if you would leave a comment with your favorite relationship green flags because we all have certain things that we see in another person and we're like, I like that about you. And we have red flags as well. So if you have green or red flags, honestly, just comment because we can all benefit from learning about this. Thanks so much for watching, guys.